Scurl Grooming Lounge, and we have some amazing people. The barbershop is a melting pot for a lot of people to come together. We're here this weekend for Celebration Bowl. I'm humbled to be a part of it. One word I think of when I think of this event this weekend is legacy. Like, we are part of legacy. We've been grooming some of the players for this amazing weekend. I think that's pretty dope for us to be a part of. The question I have for you, Chief, what conversation did you have that you believe is going to be most impactful with some of the kids that you've cut this week?
I had a conversation with one of the young men, the guy that got the design. Yeah, and we were just talking about legacy, right? And I just encouraged him to go ahead and keep moving forward, play hard this weekend. But when you make decisions, understand this, two things. When you make them, there's a dam associated with each decision. I don't care which way you go. But when you hit that decision and you run into that dam, just keep pushing forward, young man. Because either way you go, you're going to face some trials and some hurdles. So just keep moving. And hopefully it'll help him out this weekend. He gonna need it.
So the conversation when the students were coming to me and asking me, you know, what is your plan? It wasn't about sports. Obviously they got a passion in sports, but what are they majoring in? What do they want to do outside of it? Even if they made the Pro Bowl, the Hall of Fame, the best, most successful, even looking at Coach Prime, they have investments all over the board. So building relationships. See, I was denied getting the opportunity to have the freedom to go to college because I was a teenage father that led me to barbering. So right off bat, when I was 17, 18 years old, it was like career driven. What do I need to do? I had responsibilities. So college was out the door, but I was good with my hands. I can tell you one thing, there was not going to be a college that was going to accept me in the first place because, you know, I was an adaptive learner. I was always a creative. So it was, you know, I daydreamed through tests and I doodled and I draw. You know, I thought the SAT was a Christmas tree. I didn't even know. So listen, we wasn't supposed to do that. But that was my reality in life. That was my wake up. I own 7 businesses. I teach at Paul Mitchell all around the country. I'm a teacher where I had teachers tell me in 3rd grade, 4th grade, like, you're not saying, what are you doing in this class? I'm supposed to be in these slow classes. But I found something I love. I found some passion behind that. And through that, I umbrellaed what I love, whether it's education, whether it's content creation, whether it's owning business, whether it's being here with amongst you guys, whether it's cutting hair every day. I'm doing what I love. So what I was trying to give back to the kids that I was speaking today was, you got the opportunity. If you don't have any children right now, you have a great education in front of you. Whether you succeed in football or you don't, take advantage of the education that you got. Take advantage of the masters that you're about to get, the degrees, and most importantly, the relationships.
I get the benefit of talking to them after they leave you. And that, what you said and what you guys are saying here, what you may not understand is what that means to them, because you don't necessarily get that when they're sitting in the chair. But I get it from them because I'm always asking, so how's it going? What was that experience like? Tell me what you got out of it. And I'll talk to them in groups. I always make sure I have a group of them because they feed off of each other. And what you guys are doing in this grooming salon, is setting an expectation of themselves, because this is an experience. And when they come into this experience and they've seen you, and then they can take a moment and they hit your name up there and find out about who you are and go, man, that's what they're telling me. Man, I didn't know that there were guys like that doing that. Hear me what I said, that there are guys like that doing that. Because there's a perception in a lot of kids' mind of what a barber is. And what you guys are stylists. You are creating image. And that image is in their mind and it's in how they look. So that's why when you look good, you play good. And that's not just on the football field. When you look good, You play good, and that's what you create. The mindset.
I appreciate you for sure, though. Wait, let me get one. I thank y'all for the fresh cut, too. Y'all got me right. Look good, play good, right? You feel me? Y'all got me right.
One of the things that I heard John Grant talk about was how the Celebration Bowl has culture. Compared to all other bowl games, he said that this one has culture. I got a question for the room. How would you define culture?
It's a melting pot of different men and women from different parts of the country that are bringing their regional, interests, likes, dislikes to one place. And then you start to learn a lot about yourself, right? I remember the first time I met this dude from LA. He's wearing Vans, standing like this. I never seen that from Texas, right? How was he was out here like this. I mean,
Hey, I still got the Vans.
Yeah, see, he still got the Vans. And coming from Texas, I had never seen a black man wear Vans. That was weird to me, right? But then understanding his story, his culture, and now we do business together. So to me, when you talk about HBCU culture, it's about mixing our interests from where we're from and then developing something so we can move forward.
The word culture is a weird one. The word culture is really hard to define, and people struggle with putting words and kind of wrapping their arms around it. And I think when we say culture, what we're really talking about is pop culture. We're just saying it's largely impacted by Black culture. And we're saying we're saying the culture that everybody lives, where U.S., the world, everything else, is starting with Black culture, and it's a lot of times even starting here in Atlanta, to be honest with you. And there's that aspect of it. And what's interesting about HBCU is the exact same thing. You go to a school with all one. This is the first time, and I'll say this for Morehouse. And there are two types of dudes who go to Morehouse.
Hold on, man. Hold on.
There are two types of dudes who go to Morehouse. They're very different, but they're the same time. It's black dude who came from the hood, who didn't have many resources, but was really smart. And everybody around him wasn't focused on the same things that he wanted to be focused on, but he was trying to take this path. And he came here, and there's a whole bunch of other black dudes who look just like him, who are focused on the same thing. Representation. The other black dude was well off, maybe went to private school, maybe went, had a better life. He was surrounded by white people his entire life, was also a black dude who was focused on everything, what he thought was the good path. This was also the first time that he went somewhere and saw people who looked like him, who were focused on the same things. And the thing is, when we talk about culture and impact of culture, those HBCU students go here to HBCU, and then they go into these big corporations that are primarily white. They tend to be the only 1, 2, or 3 black folks kind of sitting at that corporate table. And it's that same impact on corporate culture that we're talking about when we say the culture. It's just pop culture is the culture that we all live in. It's just heavily influenced by black. And it's the same thing you're talking about, these kind of these black individuals coming from around America. And Morehouse taught me the diversity of the black man, because I thought every black man was like me from Jackson, Mississippi, but I didn't know LA had a different black man. I didn't know Africa had a different black man. I didn't know New York had
Africans that
I didn't know so many different black men. But then you came here and you had an embracement of your identity that you could then kind of push out into the world.
The way I'm interpreting everything really narrows down to brotherhood and representation. And I think it's something beneficial that comes from that I think, honestly, that I have missed out on at times, and I believe that my kids miss out on times. So I try to make sure I create a healthy balance of it all so we can have that.
So, if I may, that healthy balance that you speak of, earlier I mentioned each decision having a dam associated with it. Now, we moved our kids to a place where they ended up in the PWI. Thought it was a great idea. Got them in there, good grades, they taking trips to Europe, everything. Would have never happened where I'm from. But they are so disconnected from our culture. And my wife and I look at it and we like, what did we do? So I'm asking you guys who have went through the HBCUs and went on in life and doing great, what would you suggest to somebody like myself, bringing up kids, taking them out the hood and putting them in this situation? Is there a healthy balance? Because if it is, we missed it.
As society, I think we have given, and this goes back to the diversity piece, we've given, quote unquote, like their culture, like so much diversity and so many different angles to it, and we've made our culture monolithic. And
Yeah,
and there's
Yo,
not
everybody think they the same.
and it's even when we talk about like HBCUs, etc. Like your typical person is gonna go to like one idea, and it's one idea what a black person looks like. And when we talk about, our experience with the HBCUs, it was Muslim, it was Christian, it was rich, it was poor, it was North, it was South, it was all these different type of angles to it, and living within that, and what I struggle with with Black folk who have progressed, and then we go and we live in upper class society that tends to be mostly white, and we try to find like blackness for our children. Is what we do is we put them in organizations around a whole bunch of other black kids who are trying to figure out how to be black, who also ain't never seen no black folks. And then they go into a room in themselves, and they're like, that's the piece that I struggle with. My thing is when you drop them off at the YMCA, they gonna get a little bit of everything. When you drop them off at this HBCU, they gonna get a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. These little forced organizations of you gotta be wealthy black person to be in doesn't do that. Nah, it's just a whole bunch of black folks trying to figure out what it means to be black.
Right? It's like one of the flyest things for me about Morehouse, and I think Atlanta has some of this too, so I'll say just live in Atlanta, you get a little flavor of it. But you could be every type of black, and that's the flyest shit, right? Because you can be a black kid who's into rock music. You could be a black kid who's a skateboarder. You could be a black kid who grew up raising cattle, right? Like all these different like complex identities, not just the one stereotype of the urban kid who escaped poverty and gang culture, whatever. Like, and for, people who do have that experience, it also gives like real voice to it. You're not a caricature anymore. You see what I'm saying? So like, if I'm talking about what it was like for me growing up in South LA, people might connect through the music or through the movies, but it's different when you know somebody, you feel me? Right. And it's different when you could come back to my hood with me, or I could pull up in your hood with you. Like, it just gives you a different appreciation. Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Like, man, I don't remember seeing no white people while I was at Morehouse. Like, for real. I'm talking about but I'm saying you could go weeks without seeing a white face. And you be like, you forget white people exist. You be like, yo, like,
It was a rude awakening.
dog. You be like, yo, you go down, we won't even go to Peachtree or nothing like that. You be on the southwest of Atlanta, and it's like everything you do revolves in the black community. And so it's like, it's an opportunity for you to not feel like an outsider, right? And then it's an opportunity for you to feel like an outsider within your own culture that you've never been, exposed to before. So you got, 1,500 black men, and then you find your own village within a community of black men, which is like such a subculture of a subculture of a subculture that you would never be able to experience in corporate America or any other time in your life. So why not give yourself an opportunity to really be entrenched in what you are, to be able to understand how diverse your community really is, so that now you can have a better appreciation for the black dude that wears a suit with Vans. You know what I'm saying? Because I grew up with black dudes who wears Stacey Adams that in the pack. Like, the suit came in the plastic with the shoes and the bow tie and all that. But that's where I learned how to tie a tie. That's how I learned how to wear a suit that didn't, I learned the difference between a boot cut and a ankle cut. I don't even know what they call it. You know what I mean? I'm still learning, so.
This is all making me think about what's going on right now. We're in this space, and we haven't talked about it. The elephant in the room is Coach Prime coming from an HBCU going to a PWI. Now, here's the thing. In my barbershop in Philadelphia, divided. Arguments going on.
Every day.
Arguments going on. A lot of the arguments come from individuals who don't know all the information. I always say that your judgment is only as good as your information. And if I can share with you some details that will make you understand things fully, you may not be saying exactly what you're saying right now because of what's taking place.
I'm not even going to speak on Coach Prime. I respect the decision that he made. I'm going to take a different angle on it because I know a lot of people in here will feel some of the frustration around the way that statement ended, because I have a black bank account. I live in a black neighborhood that's walking distance from Morehouse College. I'm in business with black men, right? I live in a black ass city. I only date black women. You feel me? So it's like this idea that like I'm the blackest nigga. I did more than him. So my point is like, you know, this notion that like we have to qualify that to even level a critique, particularly amongst these guys, like everybody in here stamped, right? So like, so
listen, you just ran down a significant resume. You had the confidence to speak on this one.
right.
I don't want to hear nothing from somebody that hasn't done 1/3 of what you did. You're not saying that. You're telling me you're committed to the culture.
Yeah, and the reason that I bring all that up is because I feel like with all of those tick marks on the resume, it's still a responsibility and an obligation to engage. You feel what I'm saying? And so you don't got to run all that down just to be able to speak about our collective culture and community. It shouldn't take having to be like, all right, I did all this, and now I can like contribute a thought or an idea to the black experience or make a critique of one of our black leaders, right? That's one thing. Number two, I will say that I feel like we know we've been here before Prime came, and we're gonna be here after Prime leave. And so he could go do whatever he wants to do in the Pac-12. God bless him. I'm from the West Coast. I hope USC smash them every time they play them. And at the end of the day, like we've been contributing to these HBCUs, to the community, to the US, to the world, right? So like we know the relationships, the connections, the achievement, all the amazing things that HBCU grads have been doing. And welcome to the party for all the people that needed Coach Prime to introduce them. Right. But now that you're here, like fuck with us. Like we've been here and we've been running, we've been moving, we've been motivated, we've been had the battery in our back. And so I think God bless him. He served a purpose. He had his moment. But it's bigger than just one person. And I think people can make that critique even if they didn't go to a black school.
It's bigger than one person. Yeah, for sure. I believe that it's up to us who want to be understanding of the value of the culture, or I'm gonna use a phrase, brotherhood and representation, and understanding what's needed for us to overcome a lot of what I like to call our emotional incarceration. Like literally our emotional intelligence doesn't allow us to thrive in a healthy space. A lot of us deal with traumas and deal with, different versions of mental health issues and anxieties and stuff like that when undiagnosed. And they come in the barbershop and we ready to argue over because somebody say they like LeBron over Mike. And we understand that ain't really the issue. You know what I'm saying? Like you ready to fight somebody because you don't understand how to handle conflict resolution. That's a whole other
like the barbershop is a comfortable place, right? But like we need to approach this as like black men being a fraternity. You know what I mean? And all conversations that we have in private don't need to be in public. So we can have different ways that we feel about Coach Prime, but we don't have to express the way that we feel. Like the way other communities protect each other, we need to protect each other as well, right? And so what I don't appreciate is that we're having a lot of inside conversations in public that tear us apart in front of people, whereas other communities have these conversations however they have these conversations, right? And they get dealt with in a way that's still respectable and respectful to the outside communities as they're on the outside looking in. So it doesn't seem like a chink in our armor. And the other thing that I'll say is that, no disrespect to Jackson State, but like at Morehouse, nobody gave a damn about playing sports. Like, you got no girls being on the football team. You did it. I'm just saying.
Tell us how your experience was, because we don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you was the president of the business association, then you had clout. Like, nobody cared about the linebacker. Like, we got some guys now, and it's like changing, but like, nobody in this room went to Morehouse because of the sports. Am I lying? Am I lying? Because nobody cared, and probably all of us could have made a team. You know what I'm saying? Like, or I'm just being serious. You know what I'm saying? I'm being honest. So it's like it's levels to it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, like I said, no disrespect to Jackson State. I come from a country Friday Night Lights town where football is God. But in Atlanta, Georgia, at Morehouse College, that's not how we feel. You know what I'm saying? That's not what we came to that school for. So that wasn't a driver for us. You know what I'm saying?
I like that you give this insight into your world, because it is your lived experience wasn't ours, so we won't know unless you share it with us. I also love the point of the protection of our own because that's a part of the brotherhood that we're talking about. Friends are 2 or more people that's walking in the same direction and that protect one another. So I appreciate that one. The conversation came up not so much to tear down, but more so to figure out, let's brainstorm on some solutions on ways in which we can continue to inspire. So,
Can I speak on Prime Leaving Jackson real quick? He from Jackson.
Oh man.
I'm not about to get on
He gonna speak on,
that wasn't what I was about to
he
do.
gonna speak on Prime leaving Jackson. I want to speak on Prime coming to Jackson.
Okay.
So, me being a black man from Mississippi, Prime came to a place was I think didn't have the fire that it had right now. I mean, he lit the whole city up. I mean, he changed the whole football program for HBCU, Jackson State, other HBCU colleges in Mississippi. Jackson State couldn't even practice when it rained. Prime changed all that. Ain't nobody else in the HBCU and done that for HBCU colleges. People feel they got a sour taste in their mouth for him leaving or whatever. You can't get mad on a man progressing the way he the way you can't get mad of a man succeeding in life or whatever. Man, I was happy for Prime that he was able to like come change the way people looked at HBCU and then go on to a Pac-5 school district like we at right now. I mean, he's not doing it just like for him. He's doing this for his family. He's doing this for his culture or whatever. Man, I salute him. I'm glad he came to Mississippi. I mean, people could have prayed and everything, and you couldn't have had a situation like that, but it happened like that, and we're grateful for him for coming to Mississippi.
Deion leaving Jackson situation and the conversations around it, they're funny. You ever been in a relationship with a girl and y'all both knew it was the right thing for y'all to break up, but that didn't stop the fact that her heart was gonna be broken when y'all left? Like that's what's going on. So I'm from Jackson, Mississippi. Most of my family are Jackson State graduates. My mom's a Jackson State graduate. My brother's a Jackson State graduate. Much of my other families are Jackson State graduates. And one, Jackson, just so you know, Jackson State, it's always had high sport expectations. It's had low results. Like we just finally started actually winning, but the expectations were, huh? What was the record before they got there? Oh, I don't even know. Yeah. Amazing halftime show. That's what we undefeated at halftime. So the vibe was there, but we weren't winning. Then 2, you got Jackson. And Jackson, and I explained Jackson is very different than a lot of other cities. Like everybody always has like their hoods, their you know the slum. The thing is, when you're in the hood in New York, you can still look over and you can see the World Trade Center. You can still see there's Wall Street there. You can see there's success over there somewhere. In Jackson, you look at TV. Like, it's not there. You see some dark spots, you see some more dark spots. And it's a beautiful place. I love Jackson. You should go visit. But there's no World Trade Center there. There's not this level of success. So the biggest concert in town is Lil Boosie. So it's a different level there. So when you have somebody like a Coach Prime come in and push that into the city, everybody there knew what it was. They knew when Coach Prime came there, he wanted to be coach at Florida State. They knew he was going to be there X number of years and move on. That doesn't stop the hearts from being broken right there.
Gotcha.
So I think there's an aspect of like 2 things can be true. Like we can all support Coach Prime in his next endeavor. We can all support him for everything that he brought to the city, everything that he did great for the city, but also realize like this city ain't built like every other city. So this city gonna hurt a little bit different than other cities gonna hurt when you pull that outside the city. Yeah. So, and that's what we're going through right now. And I think there's a way for us like to be there for Jackson to feel that, and then also support Coach Prime and his route to success at the same time.
For us, as we were going into building our product, we started its community platform. And basically, for folks that aren't familiar with it, it's a Web 2.5 platform. So for going from Web 2, Facebook and Instagram, going to this next wave of blockchain technology, NFTs, decentralized finance. And so we'd say, hey, we noticed right away, we say, one thing that's missing in the space is this content is catered to a very narrow demographic. And we said, there is just a gap here, like a huge gap. And so, you know, I was fortunate to partner up with Trey and James, and then also Ryan Shepard over here. And man, like, I didn't go to HBCU, but man,
Y'all
they
work
put me
together.
on.
That's why he's so mad.
Yeah.
I got you. I understand that. I understand that.
They put me on it in such a way, man, and like really just being a part of the Celebration Bowl here has taken it to a whole new level. Like John has just rolled out the red carpet, and like this thing is, people talking about the Celebration Bowl is cool, and like it has just exceeded every expectation. So like, even though like that's kind of been our focus out of the gate, like, hey, we saw that's a problem that we want to solve. We want to bring folks into the space and not only have a seat at the table, but help build the table. It's mutual. Like, I think they're bringing us along too, and a lot of people are going to learn from the stuff that we're going to bring forward and from the stories that people are going to tell on the platform.
It's a great point. If you look at like Instagram, Twitter, Black Twitter, Instagram, our culture built those platforms, right? So when we started this company, we said, hey, let's start a company for people not only from neighborhoods where we're from, but understand how to build a product to amplify their culture instead of stealing the culture, right? And so John Grant, Disney, ESPN, you know, they saw that opportunity and gave us that chance. You know, we had an opportunity to go to other bowl games, you know, work with other companies, but we saw the value in Celebration Bowl. And just the short amount of time that you've seen the Celebration Bowl grow and expand, you know, like John Grant always says, imagine where we'll be 100 years, imagine where we'll be 1,000 years from now.
Yeah, the one thing I'll add to that is, you know, Mark is my brother from the football team. He's 2 years younger than me. We played football at Stanford together. And I was fortunate enough to meet Trey coming from Stanford, or coming from Morehouse. Yeah. So I heard a lot of talk about ball. Got a lot of talk. But nah, I was fortunate enough to meet Trey on my journey to becoming a man while I was at Stanford. Trey was coming over from Morehouse. They had an exchange program. I met a other Texas kid with a whole lot of swagger. But I realized a lot about him instantly, and it was because of the brotherhood that he had forged at Morehouse. And one of the things I saw was similar, even though Mark and I were at a predominantly white institution, most of the football players on the team were black. And we were from predominantly black neighborhoods. And I saw Trey, the way he moved, the way he talked about his experience, the way he talked about that brotherhood that he forged. And I tell Ryan all the time, I'm on planes, I see people in a Morehouse hat, I want to dap them up because I'm around them so much, and I feel it. But one of the things I do think, to circle back to the original points of the conversation in terms of whether you choose a predominantly white institution, a HBCU, that experience I had in the locker room with black men trying to take themselves from a place where much of their circumstances weren't perfect and trying to better themselves, I got to experience it at a place that was predominantly white. But I also got to grow together with my brothers who were predominantly black. And I got to see Trey do the same thing at a HBCU with Morehouse. And I think that's what we wanted to bring to the table at Lockerverse. Is said, how can we all build this table together? Not just have a seat at the table, but build it together. And I think that's what Coach Prime's gonna have the opportunity to do. He built up an incredible thing at Jackson State, took it to a new level. But I think that bridge that he's gonna be able to forge is a really important part of where our culture is going. And I think we need to be at the forefront of that.
I was impressed by something that John Grant said tonight about the first Celebration Bowl. He said that this was the most viewed Celebration Bowl to date. To date. So when he said that, honestly, I had expectations that the previous Celebration Bowl would have had that based off of what we know was done in Jackson. So it lets me know that there are other individuals too, and Ryan, this is what I was getting to, like that there's other individuals that should be carrying the weight and responsibility of focusing on our brotherhood, focusing on our representation in many different ways. Like for me, that means something. Like
I love what was said earlier. You know, with Coach Sanders. Coach Sanders did everything he said he was going to do. He did it. But we have to also realize that we have to stop looking for saviors. Yep. That the savior we ought to look for is when we get up and look in the mirror every day. That's the savior. And what kind of savior are you being? First for yourself, then to be able to help save others. So for us with this bowl game, it's all about people ask me, well, man, you gotta feel good. Actually, I don't. I don't, because the moment I begin to feel good, then I begin to relax. And I want to be uncomfortable every single day. Every day I want to be uncomfortable. And as long as I'm in that space, I know I'm growing. And the moment I don't feel uncomfortable, I know I've stopped. So I applaud Coach Prime because he's going to get uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable coming to Jackson. And you think about this. This is a guy that's performed and been exposed at the very highest levels. He's been at, played at Florida State, All-American, etc. He's won 2 Super Bowls. That means he's been in 2. He's won a World Series. That means he's been in a World Series. So in sports, at the highest level, he's been there. So imagine someone who does that and they come to a place like Jackson State and they're bringing that. Are we ready for it? Or is the idea that, hey, wait a minute, we got to pull you down here to where we're comfortable? And so for me, I thought that was a part of the challenge. I heard him say a number of things. Look, going to Power 5 won't change my life, but it would change my coach's life. What he was saying was code, help my coaches. The question is, did we do it? He said, when he talked to his players, he said, it's not that I'm tired of fighting, but I'm tired of fighting. He didn't say that. What he said to me was in reverse. Man, I'm tired of fighting. Where's the help? So my challenge to Jackson State is, D I love, where were you? When he said, hey, pay my coaches, everybody should have said, let's dig into our pockets. What does it take? But yet, we're going to sit back, as people always do, and wait for someone else to do it. And then complain when the person says, well, I'm going to move on to do what I said that I need to do, which was help my coaches and help these kids. This is our challenge, man. And it's a wonderful opportunity that we have. And these are lessons. This is a great lesson for Jackson, and for all of us, that excellence requires you to be uncomfortable all the time.
When I learned about Lockerverse, one of the things that it brought me to was just like the reinvention of like the Black Wall Street, idea, right? Like there should be, without, historically the way that Black people have been oppressed, that you can just research. There should be a Black Wall Street the same way there's a Chinatown in every city, right? But even more so, I hope that the construct, right? Because I think Coach Prime is now becoming more of a construct and an idea. Can we translate and transform that to, things outside of sports? Can we get more Black professors that are tenured, that are going to the Harvards and the Princetons and the Stanfords of the world to go to a Morehouse or, we're seeing it there, but to a Jackson State or an Albany State? Can we get more other Black leaders to reinvest in our communities, in our colleges, in our higher education, or even secondary education or early education, right? Think about the best teachers in the world committing their life's work to communities that need the most help that they are relevant to. So I think, can we adapt that to other places in our world? And I think that was something that you were saying earlier about like this, not putting so much emphasis on one person, but how can we advance ourselves outside of just sports? And Coach Prime is Deion Sanders, bro. He's you're not going to get enough. Like, you're literally talking about the greatest ever.
Yo, watch this. I don't want to measure myself based on somebody else. I believe my value comes from me just being uniquely me instead of me trying to be somebody else. I want to be able to control what I can control and focus on what I can do. And I have the confidence in this one thing. Even if I'm only able to do a little bit, that little bit is going to be that much more of a help for somebody. And here's the reason why I believe that. Everybody in here at some point in time has lifted some type of weights and probably had somebody spot them. If you ever had some type of fatigue, having somebody else there to give you a small amount of assistance helped you get over that hump. I believe that anything that we can do to help somebody else is going to be that assistance that get on. I don't care if you're the strongest man in the world, you need a spotter. So the weakest people in the world, they're definitely going to benefit from having a spotter. So each and every one of us have to figure out our own ways in which we can spot somebody else within our brotherhood to make sure that we all continue to get stronger. With that being said, I appreciate you guys stopping by the grooming lounge, but the way that y'all can help out your barbers is make sure y'all tip your barbers.
Amen. You look good, you play good. Yes, sir.
The game day is Saturday, you look good, you play good.
Listen, I want to tell you is one word that I think of. It's legacy. We get a chance to be a part of the legacy celebration.
So it's gonna be interesting to see who comes out on top. I really feel like our haircuts are gonna be a part of that because, again, like I said, we provide confidence.
It means a lot having Andis give back to the players, to the community, and just overall the experience.
Man, out here at the Celebration Bowl, just giving back, man. It's a blessing to be here. Shouts out to Dusse, Andis, and Scurl for having us and just giving us the opportunity to come out here and bless these kids before the game, man. Thank you guys so much for having us.
Every haircut I do, baby, they gonna score a touchdown. If it's a running back, baby, he going through that hole on them boys. This is a QB, baby. He gonna throw that thing long. If he gonna be a wide receiver, baby, he gonna catch that thing.
I love my favorite line in all movies. I love certain lines in movies, and The Untouchables. When Sean Connery asked Kevin Costner, "Do you want to get Al Capone?" Then what are you prepared to do? Because if they pull a knife, you better be ready to pull a gun. They send one of yours to the hospital, you send one of theirs to the morgue. If you take the violence out of it and go, well, what are you prepared to do? Because if somebody tries to step on your toe, then you got to find a way to step up above them. I try to tell everybody, anybody who works anywhere, that you don't work for anyone other than yourself, no matter what it is you do. Because the moment you have a job, you won't have it long. But whenever you have a client, see, I work with ESPN. They're my client. I work for me. And what I do every day is get up to find a way to provide a world-class service to my client. And so whenever I'm talking to them, I always say, whenever I'm advocating for something, I'm advocating on your behalf. Now you decide you don't want to do it. That's on you. And that puts you in a much different place. It means that you will move differently. Going back to how do you be your best self? Work for you. And that's a mindset. It's a mindset, no matter what it is that you do, that you're always working for you. I even had a guy say, well, yeah, but your check has Disney. I said, so does the person who comes that they hire to dig a ditch. That stop is the same as mine. What makes, when I say dig as a contractor, what makes them different than me? So absolutely not, I don't work for you. I work for me. Now, with that, when you do that, so Coach Sanders works for him. And it's okay. Because that is a way to advance whatever it is you do.
I also think people's road to entrepreneurship is not as complex as they may think it is, right? I think, people are afraid to have difficult conversations that really aren't that difficult with their employer. So I'll just take, for example, me and Ryan have been professionally just, brothers and looking after each other for years now. But there was an opportunity for me to, it's really as tangible as this. Have a conversation with your employer. If you work 9 to 5, if that's your main source of income, and just say, look, I don't want you to pay me benefits. I don't want you to pay me retirement, right? Pay me what you pay me monthly as a contractor, and then let me figure out the rest, all right? But keep me on contract, all right? And then what you'll realize is that that's a 25, 30% decrease of what they have to pay in their overhead for you. So you may end up in a situation where they're like, you know what? That works for both of us, right? So now you have your first contract. You've rolled off the payroll to an extent, right, with your employer, all right? I'll take home whatever my take home is. I won't have a deduction in what I make, but then I got to figure out now it's about like learning business. It's about learning how to write off your taxes. It's about learning how to have expenses or whatever. But then you have the flexibility to legally go out and find another contract doing the same thing that you're doing with your own employer. And that's what started my own independent, firm. It was like, you know what? Y'all gonna get rid of me in 6 months anyway? Let me be a contractor. Give me all my money. I'll figure out my own taxes. And now I can go and sell myself without having any conflict of interest. It really can be as easy as that.
Yeah, because what I took away from what you said just now is the value of us giving game to each other. The value of us sharing the tips, the tricks, the strategies of this and that. So exactly. Marcus mentioned this. He and I have been in a business relationship for years now, working together, contract here, there. I got some, you got some. We're always curious and picking each other's brains.
We had a standing meeting at 11 a.m.
Yep.
What was it, Tuesday?
Yep.
For like 3 years.
Yep.
Never missed it.
Yep.
And that's through like several jobs. I'm sorry,
No,
that's something that we always like
Why
think
y'all were
about.
getting paid? Y'all were calling each other at 11 a.m.?
Nah, we was getting money. It was getting money. It was
So it'd be a situation where, maybe we're working on a contract together, or maybe
I'm with
yeah.
That's what we supposed to do though.
And that experience, that example, man, that's what we have to do, because it's that exchange of knowledge and information, and intergenerationally or regionally or across different industries.
Or
And
whistle with your therapist.
you see what I'm saying?
Or whatever, your kids.
Because it morphs into all of that. It moves to the personal. It moves to like what's really going on in your life. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the magic. And that's what I think about with John and what he's doing and bringing this together. And it's about content and narratives and bonds and celebration. All of that is tied into, what we're doing here.
It's all tied into stretching yourself, which John mentioned to me. You have to stretch yourself. And when you stretch yourself, you bring other people along. I met Mike. I don't know how I met him, but I met him. He said he wanted to DJ, right? Like, seriously, like our first real interaction, he's a Morehouse man, I'm a Morehouse man, but they were like, yo, there's this kid named Mike that DJs. I said, all right, DJ. He DJ'd, he did his thing, then he DJ'd again. Next thing I know, I'm doing something for Black NBA. Mike's like, Jay, I got the whole play for you. I'm like, how does Mike know the play? He gave me the play that made me crazy money. Like, gave me, matter of fact, the sponsor is sitting on the other side. We work for another brand. What's up, my guy? He worked for another brand. We ran the Diageo party. Mike gave me the whole play. I stretched myself, Mike stretched himself, and we all won. 1, 2, 3 people in this room, right? John said, Jay, I'm willing to do this for you, right? He stretched himself. He didn't have to do this. He didn't need what I could bring to the table here. He didn't need what they could bring to the table. He stretched himself. And that's the culture. That's the culture that, like, people don't really understand. That's the brotherhood, like, and just the family, because it's women that's a part of this. It's guys that's a part of it. So I don't just want to call it a brotherhood, but that's, to me, that's what HBCUs are about. And that's, like, what we try to bring into the overall culture. Like, yo, we got to really support each other. And, like, you started this off asking about the culture and, like, what does it mean to us? And I think you're in a room filled with a whole bunch of HBCU grads from all these different institutions, and that's the culture for us.
You mentioned earlier, what can we do outside of Prime, right? Because he was such a big personality. And I appreciate all of the entrepreneurial spirit that's in the room, and the conversation that you had with Ryan, and that key word of grooming. I think it's key for other young folks, Black folks coming up, to see us in different spaces, right? So like me, myself, I'm in the corporate sector, but I'm a graduate of Morehouse from Atlanta, came up, grew up, and I always focused on being my authentic self in a corporate space, right? But also reaching back and recruiting at HBCU, so at the Howards, the Hamptons, the Morehouse, the Spelmans, and allowing them to see me in the space that I operate, and showing them that you can also operate in this space, right? Like, you can also make a career out of this. You can also be a boss in a majority white world that we don't always see, right? So that's how we can continue to grow the HBCU experience and continue to give back outside of a big personality like Prime, is continue to feed into the next generation that's coming up, right? And that's one of my driving motivations and what I do outside of, continue to grow my career, but make sure that those college graduates see me and they know that they can successfully navigate the corporate space. So
one of the guys that one of the things that stood out to me with the guys that we cut, you know, the barbershop guys come in and they confess, you know what I'm saying, and talk about things that they may not talk about somewhere else. But it was interesting, man, like the face projects what's going on in the mind a lot of times. You know, in barbers, we read body language, you know. All day. And these guys having a good time, these young boys, you know. And one of the guys had an issue where, you know, it's not, I ain't gonna say it's an issue, but it's a matter where he has gotten someone pregnant. You know, and he was kind of concerned about it, you know, ashamed and, you know, and what we do is we bring a little bit comfort and some vision to where these guys are in that moment. So just encouraging them, you know what I'm saying? It ain't over. It might slow you down a little bit, which only means you got to work a little harder. That's all it means. But, you know, just lifting them up. You know what I'm saying? So I made him feel like it ain't the end of the world. You know what I'm saying? So that's the stuff that we deal with on a daily basis with these guys coming to the shop. So, yeah, so we got them right, you know.
Definitely so. My biggest thing was challenging them on how they speak of themselves and the words that they end up using. People that know me best will always hear me. I get my trigger word is good. If you tell me that you're good, I got a problem.
I'm good.
It's a problem. Because I got a question of what's missing for you to be great. Because I was always told that without a plan, you actually plan to fail. Mm-hmm. And if you're just going to accept mediocrity of just being good, I've been programmed through school that a B is good. But if I want to attain an A, I can't be aiming for something that's just good. I can't be settling for that one. So I'm triggered by my community just accepting that. That's the way I'm filtering out. That's how I'm seeing it when people say that. So my thought is, I look around the room, I don't see good. I see great.
Great.
You follow me? And I want people to project that, inspire other people with that same thing, because me coming up in a dysfunctional family, dysfunctional home, it wasn't the good that caused me to evolve. It was the individuals that have been great around me that have taught me winning ways. What we're doing now is sharing what our winning ways have been. Like, I
That's
mean,
the biggest thing though, because even for my situation with my son is a grown man now, right? So he does what I do. He's a barber, moved to New York. One of my proudest moments was on September 1st. I'm like, you don't have kids. You're different. You know, we're living in Fort Myers, Florida. I'm from New York, moved to Florida for you, sacrifice everything. Small rural town, made the best out of it. You're living there, working in my shops, living under, you know, a safety net of what I'm doing. Why don't you go to New York? I got some family over there. You're good. You worked in my shops, 5 shops. You built up a skill set. Now you're working at a pop-in barbershop in Brooklyn 2 days of the week. You're working at one of the high-end salon, Rita Hazan, who does Beyonce, J-Lo, Mariah Carey. He's over there holding combs and being an assistant 5 days of the week. He's learning to be his own man. That was all love. Some of the stuff that I felt so difficult and sad, and how time went by as a young kid myself, having a kid and missing out those early stages of his life, was like, you don't get that time back. And then growing up and saying, you know what, I was doing everything for a purpose to provide stability for him. And for him to, and I never forced barbering to him. I wanted him to go to college. I didn't care which college, go to community college, whatever. And he said to me, Dad, I want to cut hair. And I'm like, yo, it's not as easy as what you think. You see me traveling, it's not what it is. And he brought 3 of his friends in, he cut hair, and I'm like, you're not too bad. And then, you know, we went to school. You know, I was like, well, why don't we try school, do barbering school? And I forgot, he wrote me a Christmas card or something. He misspelled a word, and I said, I'm gonna save $20,000. You're going to barber school. We're not we're going to come.
And I think, honestly, man, we need to move to a space where, like, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to be a deadbeat dad, bro. I'm not hanging with no people. You can't be my friend if you don't take care of your kids. Like, I can't trust you to be my friend if you can't take care of your damn kids.
Right.
And my friends know me. Like, listen, my daughter is my world. She is my world.
Yeah. I think that's.
I don't need nobody to speak on it for me. They know. She knows. You know what I'm saying? Like, my daughter's with me every single day. She does everything with me. There's not a place that she can't go that I'm at. You know what I'm saying? And that's because I've adjusted my life so that that's the case. But like, we need to get to a point where we got all these, you know, infractions on brotherhood and what we determine to be a man or whatever the case may be. You can't be around me if you a deadbeat dad. You can't be around me if you don't take care of your kids. I don't give a damn what you got going on in your bank account. I don't care what you got going on in your workspace, whatever. You can be broke as hell, but if you're in your kid's life and you have a good relationship, I respect you as a man. That is a determinant for me to being in my space and occupying a relationship with me. And I think that needs to be the bar, at least, right? Because how could you trust someone in business? How could you trust someone in a relationship in any type of way if they're not taking care of the person that came from them? So I could go on for days. I'm gonna pause it there because my friends know me, and this is some shit that I don't play about. Y'all know I don't play about this shit. So I'm really turning it down.
I'm with that trigger. I'm with that trigger too. But question. How old were you when you had your children?
I was 27 when I had my first child. Yeah.
So your brain had finished growing, right? Your brain was done. Yeah, you know, according to science. Yeah. But the reason I asked that question is because Andre 3000, I call him a prophet. He got a quote that's similar to this here. When it comes to that, he said that I kind of tore my family apart, carved a hole in my chest. As a father, I was doing the best that I could, which ended up being the worst that I could. And a lot of guys that fall in the lane that you're speaking about actually think with the idea that they have that they're doing a great job. I was one of them. Life exposes what? BS. I like to see it the hard way. And life taught me as I got older, bro, you messing up. You ain't doing it right. But I really thought I was. And I like what you said too, because like you don't mess with nobody that ain't taking care of their kids. And I had read something earlier that said something like, a friend is you and somebody else. That's why I respect that. Like I understand exactly where you're coming from. But like the young brother that came in today, I got somebody pregnant. Like I feel him like that's heavy. But somewhere, somehow, a class of some sort has to go on about how to be a father.
Listen, I don't think that I don't allow the excuse that men give that says I'm grinding to provide for my child, and so the absence is okay. I don't believe that. I don't subject to that because children don't give a damn about what they got on their feet until they like 10, 12 years old. You know what I'm saying? It's all about presence. So to me, life is about you create a life where you can take care of yourself, take care of your kids, whatever the case may be, so that you can be present. Like a motivating factor before I was bought into being a father was I don't want my lifestyle to change. So it's like, all right, listen, I'm having a kid, but I don't want having a kid to be able to take me away from being able to travel how I want to travel. So hustle up, you know what I'm saying? So you can take care of both, if that's how you start out. But it's like, for me, I don't accept, you know, the flexibility for me, for the life that I've created is more important so that I can, before I came here, I was at a holiday celebration with my child. She was singing Jingle Bells, Winter Wonderland. The shit was terrible. She's 6 years old. It was trash, but I was there with some flowers. Okay, it was cool. I was there though, and she loved it, and that's what I'm saying though. But like, I figured it out so I could be there at 3 o'clock. I could be there for the whatever. To me, that is much more fulfilling in life than saying that you tossed her mama whatever cash you tossed her this month. You know what I'm saying? Because she can say, because I got a video on my phone right now, you know what I'm saying, from earlier today. That's like my daddy front row. You know what I'm saying? And she like, there he at. You know what I'm saying? There he is. And that's what's going on. And like, there's nothing in life that's more important than that. Absolutely.
So a lot of what y'all are talking about is teaching, right? And a lot of what I've learned about being a man comes from my man, Trey McDonald. I got to see him become a father 1.5 years before I became a father. And to the point about Andre 3000, one of my favorite lines that he has is, spaceships don't come equipped with rear view mirrors, right?
You got one shot to be a father. And I got to see my man be a father in real time, a year and a half before I became a father. And I saw him be deliberate about that and intentional about him being a black man, being a father to a young black girl. And when I got the opportunity to do that, I took so much of my teachings and my approach, also from my own father, but also from my man. And so when we talk about this brotherhood, right? I didn't go to the HBCU, but I learned a lot about being a man from a man who went to an HBCU. And so when y'all talk about that power and that movement, it touches beyond what you can even see that you're reaching, right? And I learned again from my brother about how to be a father. And I'm being intentional about it because I got to see a real one do it the right way.
How old are you, Trey?
35.
35. And that, bro, that's why like you use the word excuse. And we do this all the time in the barbershop. Anytime I hear that word, it irks me. I'm gonna be straight up with you. Because I think it's more of an explanation, not an excuse on why. And I think age has a lot to do with it. And I think your environment has a lot to do with it. And a question I ask in the barbershop is, what is your idea of fill in the blank? What is your idea of being a father? Becoming one at 22 years old, I thought all I had to do was take care of them kids by providing and making sure. I didn't have no idea of tending to their emotionals, being intentional about talking to them at night, making them say affirmations with me. I never hugged my babies because I was never hugged. And so like, if someone does say, but providing though, oh boy, now I get out there and work, boy, hook me up to a mule. You know what I'm saying? I get it. And I thought that's what it was. But as they got older, I realized I missed it. And when I said, I thought I was doing good, man. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't. And it's because I was never taught and did better than my dad did. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah.
How could you not know if you weren't there? Right? Like, who is going to be there to explain who paid for this? Who is going to be there to help that resonate with her on a daily basis to be like, my father loves me because he bought these shoes, he bought my uniform, right? If you are not there, if you are not, that's why presence is much more important.
Things that we have to consider is the value of brotherhood. The value of brotherhood is you're going to learn winning ways from people who are more credible than you in a specific space. Maybe he didn't know the individuals that were as credible. No. I don't. No. I guess. This is what I'm saying. This becomes the need for us to make sure we pay it forward. I think we pay it forward and be mindful of who's in our tribe. Who's in our tribe starts with within our household, but then outside of our household, when we know that we have a lot of young brothers and sisters that may not have that father figure or that person who could be able to teach somebody. These things you're saying, yo, how could you not know? Because literally there's people around that just don't tell you. My personal journey was, I didn't realize how bad of a father I was until I decided to have grace for my failures, but I actually had a bad relationship with my dad. I'm a junior, never even called him dad. I was calling him Kenny because lived 2 blocks from me, but I would see him twice a year. So he didn't earn my respect. Mm-hmm. But then when I started seeing that I had certain failures as a father, I started to say, because my biggest thing was I only wanted to be better than my dad. But just being better than my dad wasn't being good. And I just share with you my desire is to be great. So it was other people around me that inspired me for that level of greatness, especially going to this event called Dads and Donuts. When I seen a whole bunch of dads supporting their kids through buying books and this and that third, I'm saying like, hold on, like, so I wasn't used to this one. And then, I mean, the different neighborhoods I've lived in, I seen my oldest play football, and then the leaders of the teams were the teams' moms. And well, my son play football now, that women not even allowed on the football field. And I was the only one being disrespectful because on the first day of practice, I let my wife take my son. And then when I went the second day, I realized that all the moms was over there with the cheerleaders, and I'm like, yo, they judging me. They judge me because they looking at her like, what you doing on the field? There's no such thing as a team mom. But until you get access, there's no way you can actually know. This is where the challenge from us. Honestly, we can write a book from all the stuff that we talked about today. And the summary from my standpoint would be pay it forward, starting with in your household, we all understand that Marcus will not be your homie if you don't take care of your kids.
Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Listen, we're not mad at that. So this becomes some of the principles that you got to live by. You know what I'm saying? Take care of your household. You know what I'm saying? And be on time for that 11 a.m. meeting with your brothers so that you can build them up. You know what I'm saying? And focus on paying attention and investing into our community through our brotherhoods, whether it be business or sports, because we learned that everybody don't like to play football. You know, but I think it's a dope way to actually share and inspire us all on where we should be channeling our energy on what's next. And then after that, we'll let John speak, and then after that, we'll close out. So just make sure you bring us on home.
I was gonna say, everything is relative, and we all gonna see the world through our eyes. So what may be being there for one person is interpreted different from being there for the other. I may think I'm being there, and my being there is relevant for me. It may not be relevant for you because you have a different perspective of what being there is. Doesn't make that person wrong. It just helps them understand, okay, what does being there mean? And then that also relative to who you being there for. So you being there for your daughter might be a different need for someone else's child who might need a different kind of being there. So that's where this all is so somewhat complicated, and you can't put a hard, fast, standard rule.
No, absolutely.
There is an absolute. The absolute is within the situation itself. It's within that situation. And then a person has to learn what it is. Like you said, you may have thought you would, like you did. I thought I was doing a good job. But you know who the measure of that is? The person you're doing the job for. And let me ask you a question. Did you ever sit down and ask them, hey, you know what? Am I doing a good job? Do you feel like I'm being there for you? Am I being a good dad? And if they say, well, I don't know. Well, tell me what a good dad is to you. And then you go be that.
I'm glad you said that, 'cause I didn't realize. So I loved him. He was always there. But I didn't respect him because he didn't have the same level of success as his friends. And that drove me to law school, started locker rooms, just this burning ambition. My dad went to Harvard. He's the smartest man I know. But he said, hey, I want to be a family man. I'm going to dedicate myself to you and your sister.
Him and Marcus is friends.
And I didn't understand that until I had my daughter. And now me and my dad talk every day. Before that, it was always like, I viewed it as like it was a waste of talent. And that was wrong of me, right? So so to that point, it's so many different perspectives. So to you, I challenge you to make sure, she knows that, yeah, you're present, but even the sacrifices you're making to be present. Because that really impacted me growing up.
Hey, just a quote, man, you made me think about this quote. When I was 14, I couldn't stand to be in my dad's presence. Now that I'm 21, he knows everything. He's the smartest man I know. And it's the kid that grew and was able to see. You know what I'm saying? And that's what that sound like to me, right? Yeah, that's dope. So I salute you guys too for having them kids, man, and doing a damn good job out the gate. Y'all guys did good out the gate. Goddamn. Yeah, man, y'all did good out the gate. Salute to the fathers. You good fathers. Salute to you.